Buying Bitcoin is the most productive thing a public company can do in 2025. It sounds dramatic, but it's not. Not when you consider that the stock market today is 90% financial engineering and only 10% actually making stuff, which is a big misconception. A lot of people think the stock market is a collection of companies who make things, but in reality, their price is more so reflected in the financial engineering that underlies the stock itself. And the most successful companies in the world, Apple, Google, Meta, routinely allocate capital not to innovation, but to buybacks. So I'm going to explain this and unpack it very simply. When a company uses its balance sheet to acquire Bitcoin instead of buying back stock, the reaction from the market should be a positive one. But instead, people call it a Ponzi scheme or worse. They say Bitcoin Treasury Companies, public companies that hold Bitcoin, are just trying to enrich insiders by pumping the stock and dumping on the next guy. And they say that the only reason to buy these stocks is because the next person might pay more. That's wrong. People buy these stocks because they want leveraged exposure to Bitcoin, and they trust the team behind these acquisitions to execute aggressively and intelligently. Some critics will argue, but you can't redeem the shares for Bitcoin. Can you redeem shares of Apple for their underlying treasury assets? No. But many don't rail against Apple for that because everyone understands how common stock ownership works. In the same way that Apple buys assets to strengthen and insulate its balance sheet, so too do companies with a Bitcoin treasury. Shareholders of neither expect redeemability. Now, here's where it gets clearer. Apple is a textbook example of this financial engineering. They've spent hundreds of billions of dollars in stock buybacks over the last decade. That didn't create new products. That didn't innovate. It pumped earnings per share, reduced float, and sent the stock to all-time highs. And nobody batted an eye. So why is it controversial when a company buys Bitcoin instead? It's the same playbook, just aimed at a better asset, and Bitcoin has outperformed every major macro asset over the last 10 years. It's harder than gold and real estate, and it's not tied to the debt machine that props up fiat capital markets. So when a public company decides to buy Bitcoin instead of treasuries or their own stock, why call it a scam? It's not. It's just smart financial engineering. And that's all the stock market is today. Bitcoin treasury companies aren't gaming the system, they're exposing it. They're showing that a balance sheet full of fiat is fragile, while a balance sheet full of Bitcoin is the opposite. And they're delivering returns that beat the market while doing it. If you're still upset that you can't redeem the stock for Bitcoin, fine. But that's not what any of these companies are pausing to do. And I would encourage you to apply that same logic to Apple, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and every other company in your portfolio. Because this isn't about redeemability. It's about whether or not you believe in the asset that they're putting on their balance sheet and the investments that these companies are making. And once you realize that today's stock market is about 90% financial engineering and 10% of actually making things, then Bitcoin treasury companies start to make a whole lot of sense. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and repost so more people can see this. And of course, follow for more. And of course, check out Horizon. Horizon lets you stack Bitcoin using your home equity without new debt, monthly payments, interest charges, or term limits. You can check it out at joinhorizon.com or by scanning the QR code right there. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.